Greetings! Welcome to the Devlog for hot dogs, horseshoes, and hand grenades. We're going to start off as always with a quick sound check. Make sure speakers aren't up too high. Oh no, they're not staying down! Blasted rot wieners. Especially the ones... that gas mask. This was supposed to be a short intro, I swear. There we go. So what have we got for you this week? Well, it's time for another one of our post-Meatmas patches to update 106. I know this seems to be sort of grinding on, but there's still a bunch of improvements that I want to make before jumping on over, as well as bug fixes and just things I didn't have time to actually give the proper attention during the Meatmas season. So let's jump on over and take a look. So the first thing we have going on today is that we finally have the appropriate custom cartridge for the CBJ-MS. That's 6.5 by 25 millimeter CBJ, and like many PDW cartridges, this has a sort of like almost mythic status, frankly put, in terms of its purported capabilities. I have implemented it based upon those capabilities, even though obviously this being a military item, who knows if it actually stacks up quite that intensely. But what this basically means is that our CBJ-MS is one of the more effective compact weapons in the entire game. Let's get ourselves an optic for it. Let's grab our ammo panel and take a look at what we have going on in terms of CBJ-MS ammunition. These default to being loaded with HET, which is high energy transfer, and is this weapon's version of something in between like an FMJ and a slug. It is, as you might imagine, quite effective. So if we grab ourselves some shot dogs here, I don't know, just for comparison, let's grab a scout, let's throw in a rifle wiener, and let's throw in a heavy. Just so we can sort of like compare effectiveness here. The least effective is our frangible, which is basically is going to have next to no penetrative capability, but delivers all of its energy still to its target. Hollow point, a little more penetrative than the frangible, but only barely. HET, which we're using now, is our FMJ, and this is going to go right through the level 1 armor. It's going to get stopped by the level 2, though... yeah, on the pants, in certain cases, with some of the Sosigs, it can stun, but for these, it's getting stopped, but is an instant, absolutely instant head popper. I bet we can even get the little slit here. Yeah. Boom. HET, quite effective. If we move on, but with our breacher here, if we hit him anywhere else, it's not going to be doing much. The AP, the CBJ AP ammo is ridiculous. It's like a discarding sabot. It's like 2 millimeters across as a projectile and is supposed to out-penetrate against like 7 millimeter steel plate or whatever a fair number of ball rifle rounds. So in this case, this is just gonna... sorry, buddy! Is just going to absolutely cleave through things. In fact, let's get ourselves two shield, couple shield wieners so we can compare here. Yeah, just so yeah, so if we just for comparison, if we pop hollows in this, it'll still damage the shield. We actually might have just gotten a lucky penetration there. That's interesting. It's so hard to get the ballistics in this game to behave exactly how I want. Yup, not going through terribly effectively. But our AP. Oh, what did we do here? Fill held object. There we go. It's gonna break the shield pretty effectively. And it's honestly, I think it's actually going through the shield and still delivering some amount of damage. Oh yeah, that went right through the shield and hit the meat. Whew. This is a pretty hot round in H3, and I also forgot, I actually put in the suppressor, which was present in the Meat-Miss box originally, and then I forgot to make a database item for it, so it just didn't go in, and it's great because we can really hear the sound of the gun's mechanics more. Oh, I am a fan. I am a fan. So there we have the CBJ-MS, now in its true form as the most powerful of our PDWs. Cleaning up the range. Next up, we have one of the more ridiculous features of a gun that, once again, didn't make it in for Meat-Miss, but needed to go in, which is that with our TAZ 81, this has a built-in bayonet, which is just the most unnecessary thing I can possibly imagine. So if we just have a poor scout here, so if your speed in playing this game is to come up and bayonet a Sosig and then blow its head off just to make a point, you now have 5 shots of stabbing and shooting TAZ 81. Ah! Goodness. Looks like I can stab a little bit too far in, which means the muzzle point ends up getting embedded there, so I'm gonna have to tweak. I'm gonna probably have to artificially arrest the stab distance just a little bit. Let's see how. Sorry for science. Yeah, that can go just a little too far in, especially if it's like at an angle. Oh yeah, that means the muzzle's embedded in it, doesn't actually hit it. Whereas here, oh, you're lucky there. It's ridiculous stuff like this. There we go. Ah, wonderful. Makes all the work worth it. Oh, what have I done with my life? Our H-Point Tactical, it's so hideous, I love it, finally actually has a functional laser pointer on it. Makes the hip firing significantly easier with it. So much fun. Ah, good stuff, good stuff. And our air rifle has this was requested by a user, has a little UX advancement, which is that if we go ahead and we load a round in here after pumping this, you can now flick this upward to fire it. You know, in case you're bringing an air gun into a high-intensity tactical situation and being like, I gotta make sure to shoot this thing in the head as fast as I can, given it's gonna take, oh, I don't know, like 18 shots. I'm not gonna stand here and do it. We've got another user-requested UX feature related to bolt actions. So let's say that we have loaded this bolt action up all the way. Beautiful. And we are out, you know, taking and holding and blowing Rotwieners up and such. Bam! And we fire, and we go like that. And then we fire. Oop. And we miss! Like so. And let's say we've cycled the weapon and we're like, I need to top up, but I don't want to waste the round that's in here. You can now, while grabbing the handle manually, hold down the AX button or down on your touchpad or joystick based upon what your control scheme is, and when you pull the bolt back, the round will go into your hand instead of just flying away from you. So you can totally just go ahead and reload it like so. Top up, back to business. So no having to like have the round fly out and then pick it off the ground and such. Obviously, with the dimensions of certain bolt actions, you wouldn't really be able to easily do this, but this is to compensate for the fact that in real life, you could always open a bolt very slowly and have the round just sort of resting in that channel and easily pick it up. And so this is designed to make that more convenient. So for those of you playing limited ammo, or RPing and Rotwieners, or what have you, hopefully this makes that more fun. And you can, of course, pull out your empty to thwap a Sosig in the face in it if you're just trying to style on them. Blammo. And then lastly, for reasons I'm not going to explain right now, I decided to finally go back and give our EM2, this prototype British bullpup rifle / monstrosity, based on where you stand on these, and finally make the manual of arms on this correct. I think at least a year and a half ago, someone had posted on the Steam forum, was like, it's not correct at all, actually. There's some oddities of the way the bolt works on this, such as the fact that without a mag, if you pull the bolt back, it will actually lock back like such. Grabbing the handle will not unlock it. However, to unlock it, you can either load a magazine in and then it will automatically drop like a Garand, or we can actually just tap the mag release button on the real rifle. It goes forward. So we can go like such, then pop a mag in like that. Fire. I have adjusted the shouldering distance and the optic on this so that it is actually surprisingly useful. That means that this, like in real life, this is a 1x magnification, and the like diopter effect actually makes it fairly effective to use. That doesn't work in VR, so I have given it a little bit of magnification to make it, you know, useful. We've given it a sound tune-up. Oh yeah, there we go. Blammo! And of course, if you want to use the goofy backup sights, we of course can. I don't actually know what range the horizontal offset of this to this begins to really matter firing at a SOSIG shaped target, but works well enough close up. But yeah, once it's empty, like so, it locks back. We can pull this out, and when we put in another mag, it will just automatically drop the bolt, and so this is finally correct. Blammo. There you have it. Those are our main improvements and fixes and such for this week's patch. Beyond that, there are some real pain in the butt fixes that went in that I'll explain right now.
Yo, so what other bugs have we gotten fixed in this? So there were sort of two big ones that I really needed to deal with that I was gonna work on last week, and then I was like, I need a little more time on this so I don't mess this up or mess up mods or anything like that. So the first one is basically that because of a bunch of changes I had made, I think back when I did the Derringer update, what was basically happening is that every time a round was extracted from a firearm, pretty much any firearm, it would animate as coming from the current position of the chamber, which wasn't necessarily an accurate representation of where the round was in the cycling of the gun, because a lot of guns sort of move a proxy round from the chamber back to sort of an ejecting point, then spawn around at the ejection point, which exists for physics reasons. So I'm not like spawning a physically overlapping object. And so what was happening is that the rounds were animating from the chamber when they were unfired rounds, but not when they were spent. So I had to go in and like very carefully add an extra overridden method and then go over to every gun that shouldn't eject visually, like a Derringer or a break action or anything that you're breech loading, and make it use that new method. So that's present there. So any modders, if you are making your own weapon classes that function more like how, say, my closed bolt receiver or open bolt receiver work, you will want to look at the updated code in those classes so that you can see the way I'm calling the different version of the method and do so for yourself if you want. So yeah, so that is fixed. What else? Oh, and then the other one is that there have been some missing items in the item spawner. Some of them were broken metadata, which I've gone in and fixed, or just like I had an oversight and didn't actually end up putting the object in the item spawner in the first place, even though I thought I did. And because it was showing up and taking hold, I just didn't notice that it was missing. And then a couple of the others weren't showing up because of the way in which I sort of build meta tags internally for H3. And like, I made some real dumb decisions years ago about how I sort of bifurcated and categorized all the Meat Fortress content, because I didn't really want it getting permanently, mixed in every context into the game where it wasn't appropriate. But because it has sort of its own category hierarchy, I messed some things up when I was working on the new item spawner. So things like the Meat Fortress grenades and melee weapons and suppressors were not actually showing up in simple mode in the new item spawner. They are now. So that is fixed. And then what was the other? There was one other thing of general concern. Oh, and just some tweaks. So once again, like user requested features of things. So the muscle meat power up now massively reduces felt recoil and muzzle rise for weapons. So there are certain contexts where, especially because the muscle meat power up is cheap relative to the others, there are certain moments in Take and Hold where that would totally be worth using, as well as making them in Rotwieners. Another user request. I think this was on the subreddit. The flare round fired by the Carl Gustaf is now registered as an AI entity the same way a snowflake in the snow globe is, so you can fire at it with the Stinger missile launcher. So if you want to shoot yourself up a target for target practice with the Stinger, you can now have an on-demand target in any scene where you can fire that weapon up into the air. Cool. So that's in there. Cover the CBG-MS. And I think, yeah, and just there were a couple objects that were like either spawning with attachments that didn't belong to them, or in Take and Hold when they didn't actually need a Picatinny attachment, and that is all now fixed. Whew. So there you go. As I said, this was mainly like a bug fix and a cleanup update. Next week, we are going to be starting Update 107, which is going to be a short alpha cycle. If needed, I might honestly, based upon how things go this week, I might just drop Update 107 because I want to get right into dropping some new toys for you folks and some stuff related to Game Planner. So you should expect next week, you should expect those blocks that I showed off last week, a new set of sort of shoot house barriers that are designed for people who want to set up like shoot house IPSC style courses in various scenes that support Game Planner. And I'm going to continue sort of focusing. My sort of focus is now going to shift back over to Game Planner and getting bot spawning working. That's sort of top on my list because I know people want to create custom combat scenarios. People oftentimes, even after the holidays, have been like, all the guns are neat, Anton, but more context to use them would be nice. And I hear you. And once I get this setup working, it should be significantly more straightforward to add sort of endless wave or defense or scenario gameplay with SOSIGs all across the game. And that'll be around when I start actually dropping those new scenes in. So I've got my momentum for 2023. I'm feeling good about it. The releases are going well. I've got a whole bunch of surplus energy, which is weird because it hasn't been that long since the holiday. But hey, macro emotional cycle of the year is treating me well right now. So I hope you all enjoy this little patch and are excited for whatever we bring to you next week. Peace.